Shalom to the viewers of the Makor Raishon and YBA Education Conference. We are at a conference talking about education, and this panel will discuss education in Jewish schools around the world. And we have participants from all around the world who will explain about the unique models of the Jewish education in their specific countries and cities. So I want to say hello to our panelists here in front of me. So we have with the earphones, the cool earphones, we have Rav Ari Segal, the principal, head of the school of Shalhevet High School in Los Angeles. Shalom to you. We have
good to see you.
Good to see you too. We have Rav Bini Krauss of SCR in Riverdale, New York.
Nice to see you. Nice to see you. Thanks for having me.
And we have Rachel Fink, the headmaster of the JFS school in London. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. I'm a head teacher.
Headteacher.
And we try not to use headmaster and mistress. It's kind of a bit when I was in school.
100%.
Happy to be the head teacher.
I was connected to Harry Potter there for a second. You know, we're all stuck in the...
Like that.
Right. Okay. So if we, ladies first, then we'll start with you. Your school is very unique, and it's one of the, I think, the older schools in the UK. It's got a unique model, and I even know I got inside information. I mean, you actually made Aliyah, and you went back to be a principal of a different school, and now you're the head of this school, which at a certain point, or maybe still, was the largest in Europe. So what's so special about your school?
Okay, so it's true. The school I am head of was founded in 1732, which I think is before the Declaration of Independence of the United States. We're a very old establishment. There are well over 2,000 students in our school from age 11 to 18. So it is also the largest Jewish school in Europe. I think what's unique about Jewish schools in the UK, that apart from Israel, and maybe one or two other places around the world, it is possible to have a state-funded faith school. So we get most of our budget from the government, but we obviously have to raise additional funds to support the Jewish education and all the activities we want to do. JFS is a very, very special place. I'm actually an alumnus myself of the school, so it was with great pride that I took on the role of head just over 2 years ago. But maybe if somebody had mentioned COVID then, I might have thought twice.
Right, but I want to mention, actually, I just want to, for a second, you mentioned the fact that you're funded by the state, and the two other, principals that we're speaking to today are private. In the U.S., it's private schools, separation of religion and state, and the parents are paying a lot of money to go to those schools. So in the UK, if I understand correctly, the participation of Jewish families in Jewish education is very high.
It is. Actually, over this last weekend, the world lost a great luminary in Rabbi Sachs, and if we were to identify one individual who ensured that Jewish children would start going to Jewish schools, it was him. It was his tenure as chief rabbi in England, when he recognized that that's what needed to be put in place if we were going to secure Jewish continuity. When I was at school, and I actually was fortunate to have a Jewish education both at primary and at a high school level, about 30% of Jewish children in the UK went to Jewish schools and 70% did not. That is flipped. Today, 70 to 80% of Jewish children are educated in Jewish elementary and high schools, and that is really down to the efforts.
That's amazing and very, and again, Rabbi Sachs and I think also Rav Mervis definitely promoted that. And just like in one sentence, because we have to continue, your school is in a way maybe like a community school. So like you have people who could be from a Reform or a conservative or an Orthodox background, but they all go to the same Jewish school, but in short.
Yeah, I think that's what's unique about our school. Our school's hashkafa is under the auspices of the United Synagogue, which is the central Orthodox stream of Judaism in the United Kingdom. But the background of the students is from everything to nothing. Reform, conservative, Masorti, United Synagogue, people who are not connected, many who barely identify as Jewish but want a Jewish education, And also the Jewish schools are really good schools. So they use that advantage and for social reasons to send their children to us. So we have a real mix of school population, even though the hashkafa of the school is Orthodox.
Okay, so Rav Bini, I mean, I even told you in the email that for years I've been wanting to write about your school, and one day it's going to happen.
You're welcome.
There's so many unique aspects. I'll just mention one about SCR that, again, I haven't physically been there ever, but the fact that there are no walls in the school. Did I understand correctly? And that's part of the whole educational
Not only did you understand
concept.
correctly, but that's why you're going to hear background noise while we're speaking.
Oh, I was wondering, by the way. Okay. So tell us a little bit about SCR. How many kids, how many students do you have? You're by the way, there's a high school and elementary school. And what's unique about you?
So as you said, it is an open school. Now I actually have an open office. I used to have an office that had doors, was a lot of glass, but now that became a classroom for the pandemic, and I am in an open space, as you can probably tell. I went to SAR. I came here in 6th grade. I'm actually it looks like I'm the only panelist who has not made Aliyah, but all of my predecessors did. So the pressure's on in many respects. Rabbi Schwartz, Zichrono Livracha, who spent many years at Kibbutz Yavne after SAR, Rabbi Fold, Rabbi Yonah Fold, Rabbi Joel Cohen, all made Aliyah, all living in Israel.
Right. Okay. So let's get back to this school. So tell us what's unique. Why aren't there walls in this school, and why can we hear people in the background?
So anybody who's learned in a Beit Midrash, anybody who's learned in an open space knows that there's a lot of energy when you're learning together. Classrooms should not be closed, kind of boxed in spaces. I tell every prospective parent that if the learning that we're doing is interesting and engaging, then it's okay if there's a background noise because you're going to be engaged. And if not, you can put up as many walls as you want and it's not going to help. So we really believe in community. Of course, open spaces now are challenging. So there's a lot of separation now with the pandemic, but generally the sense of community that you have walking through this space, which really is a community where teachers are learning from each other, where children are learning from each other, because everyone's interacting all the time, is very different in that respect, I think, from many traditional schools. And it's something that we're very, very proud of.
An educational aspect, except for the issue of walls and open spaces. Like, what else is unique about SAR? I always say I'm not an expert in other schools, so I can tell you about your school, us and what we do. I don't know what others do or don't do, but I can tell you that what we take a lot of pride in is that our kids are happy to be in school. The openness is not just architecturally, but it's also philosophically. We're open to the world. We're open to new ideas. We're open to questions, even when we don't have answers to those questions. We're open to rethinking education and rethinking the way we do things, whether it's technology in education or whether it's learning how to read a paragraph of Chumash in a different kind of way. Open to the environment around us and to the values around us that need to be explored through the prism of our Masorah. Okay. Rav Ari, so I mentioned before we started recording that I had a conversation with you years ago, and you gave me your whole spiel, right, about like how not only how the kids will feel, fun and at home at school, but like the teachers, and the idea of how basically you encourage teachers to go on dates with their spouses, so they would get like tickets to movies or an option for a ticket to a movie, and there's lots of fun things to eat and drink in the what's it called, the teacher's room? I don't know what it's called in English, whatever. But so tell us a little bit about Shalhevet. And I'll also mention, by the way, that all the three schools we're speaking to are modern Orthodox on a certain spectrum and very pro-Israel. Like all the schools you are running are very pro-Israel. Yeah. So bevakasha.
We're a modern Orthodox high school, 260 students in 4 grades. About 80% of our students come from Orthodox homes, 20% from other denominations, primarily conservative, but other denominations. As you mentioned, I'm not sure I would call that the thing that makes us special. We
that's
do try to take care of our teachers.
That's what excites me. That's yeah.
Well,
okay.
I do think that that's critical, meaning we have teachers and we want them to come from other industries and choose teaching as not just a profession because, they don't have to give up themselves completely. We want them to still be treated like human beings. So we do provide drinks and snacks. And just this past Friday, we had a haircut and nail salon, drinks on the terrace, and car wash during Tech Free Friday when there were no classes and students were given a little bit of a break to just relax and recuperate from the screen, staring at the screen. And we took care of teachers that way. Everyone got a car wash. Everyone got their nails done if that's what they wanted, or a haircut. So things like that. But that's not what I would say is unique about the school, but it's something we take great pride in. The school was started almost 30 years ago by a couple. He was a real estate developer. He decided he wanted a second career in life. He went to Harvard School of Education and had a professor there named Lawrence Kohlberg, who basically said that schools are doing a very poor job of making kids better human beings. And so Dr. Friedman and his wife Jean, they went out and studied Jewish day schools, and they thought maybe this will be better. We'll be better at making mensches. And unfortunately, in their research, they found that Jewish day schools don't make better mensches. And so the school is built on this idea of moral development, that the whole process of education is about asking difficult questions, discussing difficult issues, and getting better as human beings. The way that has manifested itself, I would say in our school 25 years later, is just that it's about student empowerment. We really give students massive levels of empowerment. It's a double-edged sword, I would say. Once in a while it bites us a little bit, but in general, I would say we believe in the students and believe that they will rise to the occasion when you treat them.
One example, I noticed Sivan Rav Meir wrote about it years ago. She came to visit the school, and she wrote about like a student parliament or something you guys have every Friday. Is it like a?
Yes,
is it democratic? Is it like a?
Yes.
Okay.
So the school is democratic. There are a couple limitations to the democracy, so they can't vote on pedagogical issues or halachic Jewish law issues or things that violate American law. But it is a democracy. So it is a democracy. Sivan Rav Meir came for a town hall. Sometimes we just talk about political issues that are in the current events, but we also have debates about things that are school policy. So I'll give you one example, if that's okay. One time students asked if they could wear blue jeans. That we have a dress code. We're a private school. You try to look a little, you put yourself together. And there was a proposal that the boys should be allowed to wear blue jeans. And I think most people would just assume that would pass with flying colors, meaning who would vote against that? It's the students and faculty also vote. In the end, by the end of the 45-minute conversation, our conversation, we have it once weekly, mostly upperclassmen had said, listen, we're a school. It's important that we have a reputation in the community. It's important that we present ourselves as Shalhevet students. We want to be proud of who we are. Blue jeans doesn't feel that way, and it changes the learning environment. And the students voted 60-40 against blue jeans in the school. So something like that. And again, there are more serious ones. There are, which I could share if you want, or I'm happy to share at any point.
Just like in one sentence, a Jewish, like either internal school or internal Jewish discussion, like, halachic even.
Well, listen, it's not, I think it's a Jewish value, but we talked about cheating during COVID. It's been it's rampant in schools because you're online, and we wanted a very honest and direct discussion about that. So this wasn't a vote per se, but students very in a supportive environment and teachers in a supportive environment, but very transparent and candid, talked about, how do we deal with this? And maybe we need to explore different learning modalities and different ways of measuring students, and student accomplishments. We had a girl who wanted to wear tefillin at the school. She applied to the school. I was making the decision in the end, but the students debated it and voted and shared their input with me before I made the decision.
What was decided at the end?
So that girl and other students who are looking for egalitarian tefillah that we don't offer at a halachic, Orthodox halachic school, are able to, and with our support, go to a local conservative shul. They daven there in the morning if they want to do that, and they, Rabbi Adam Klickfeld or any other conservative rabbi there gives me a check and not a check money-wise, an email that says they were there. Mm-hmm. I'm happy to accept a check, but he gives me an email that says they were there, and that counts as their tefillah as an example.
Okay, now I want each of you to give an example of a unique either project or element of the school that you think is unique, is special to your school. But before that, just one word with Rav Bini. We didn't mention this, and we're talking about this as if it's a given. But I mean, all three of the schools here are co-ed. So JFS is not necessarily considering itself as a yeshiva or, a yeshiva high school, but I think, right, exactly. But SAR and Shalhevet see themselves as a yeshiva high school, I would assume. That's something that we don't have here in Israel. And I'm wondering if, like, mentality-wise, if you can give an explanation to why that is, or does it work or not work? Obviously, you're going to say it works, right? Never mind. Yeah.
Visitors from Israel. They often talk about, we talk about the difference between the, Israeli community, and so I try to define modern Orthodox. I'm like, I say like Dati Leumi. I'm like, but not exactly Dati Leumi because the categories don't exactly translate. So it is true. I mean, SAR and I think, other modern Orthodox schools in the country. The pillars of modern Orthodoxy have to do with girls and boys, women and men having access to top-level education. We don't have any distinction between the education that the boys and the girls get. I have a head of my Gemara department who's a female. We have, again, in terms of the connection to Medinat Yisrael, that's certainly something that modern Orthodox schools have in common, celebrating Medinat Yisrael, although I think, over the last 20 years, that's not a hot button issue. I mean, they know exactly Israeli politics and exactly where people fall on the spectrum, within their love of Israel might be something that's debated a lot, but that's something that modern Orthodox schools have in common. Really engaging the world, knowing that kids are going to graduate SAR high school and go to great colleges and become. Some of them will go into Chinuch, and some of them will go in Rabbanut, and some of them will go to be great medical professionals, and and contribute to the world in politics and arts and everything in different kinds of ways, and things that we're very, very proud of. And
Perfect.
I think that is what a modern Orthodox school is about. And I don't know, I think there are lots of models in Israel that we actually take from Israel, but at the same time, sometimes we have Israelis who come here, wow, like this is an interesting shiluv that doesn't exist.
100%. By the way, I would say, I'll add that, the issue of girls learning Gemara, learning Talmud, is something that definitely started, whether in your school or similar schools in the U.S., and that's something that only years later came to Israel. So Rachel, I want to go back to the U.K., and can you give us an example of a project or initiative or an internal school policy that's something unique to your school?
So I think one of the programs that we love the most in the school, it doesn't reach as many students as we would like, but for over 40 years, the school has had an extended residential program in Israel. So in 9th grade, all the students, or the vast majority of students, will spend about 3 weeks in Israel, but a smaller group within that cohort will spend, it's now 3 months.
Wow.
In Israel. It's based at AMSI, at Alexander Mus.
Mm-hmm.
We had our first cohort there last year, but it looks like we're not going to be able to run the program this year. And it really attracts those students who want a very immersive educational experience. It's been in different locations over the years. And I know that it has a huge formative impact on young people and their approach and love of Israel. I did the program myself. Back in the day, parents were happy to let their kids go to Israel for 5 months.
Wow.
It was at Givat Washington, by Kibbutz Yavne, Kibbutz Lavi. It's been in different places. So Israel education is very strong. And for those students who go, let's say, on the shorter trip, for many of them, it's the first time they have visited Israel. So it has a huge, huge impact. And I don't know whether this is, I don't think it's certainly not unique to our school in the UK, but I don't know if the similar model exists in America. I'm not convinced it exists in Israel, but we have what we call an informal education department, which is basically almost like having a Tnuat Noah inside the school. And that we have madrichim, and we have people who really are, because most of the students that come to our school are not Shomrei Mitzvot, and they don't have a great deal of background, one of my mantras since taking over the school is that I want every child, we are an Orthodox school with a vast majority of non-Orthodox students. So I want every student to be able to become very proud of their Jewish heritage and their Jewish identity. And if that's going to work for them, then they've got to work out what's bespoke about that, what's personal and unique. So our job, I always like to describe it as lay out the kiddush, come and taste everything and come back for more of the thing that you like. So we have kids who really, we have iyun classes who really learn to a high texture level, and the kids will go to yeshivot and midrashot when they finish school. And we have other kids who will engage through Israel or through Ivrit or through culture or through spirituality or chesed, all those sorts of things. So I want for each child to find what it is that helps them to connect, to show that they're part of something and they've got something to contribute. And very much a sort of an approach of moral responsibility. Our school motto is Ora Vikar from Havdalah, from Megillah Esther. And I like to explain to the kids, it's about, there's light and honor. You bring light to other people, you make people's lives better, and honor you bring to yourself and your community by the things that you do. So that's kind of the thrust and the approach of the school. And therefore it's inclusive. It doesn't matter who you are and what you believe or what you don't believe, but that you find your place in the Jewish community. And I always sort of say, JFS should be generating the new leaders of the Anglo-Jewish community, if you like, for the future. But there are many, many alumni from the school who live in Israel today. Many, many hundreds, probably because they went through these Israel programs.
Okay, so thank you for that. Ari, and we'll try and be short because we don't have enough time here. So give us, kind of
Svika, do you want something in the town hall type or the refrigerator for faculty type? Which one?
Of course, I want the refrigerator for faculty, but you know.
Okay, so I'm not going to tell you about our fairness committee of students who judge issues of discipline and are harder on their classmates.
Right. No, but I want to. You know what? Maybe I'll focus you. Okay. I remember you told me you run the school like if I understand correctly, like Google, like a high-tech company. Why is that? As much as
we can. So first of all, like I said, if we want to recruit the best and the brightest, we're not going to be able to match the pay, but we should be able to match the culture of the work life. And we're trying to attract millennials to come teach at our schools. The world is their oyster. Schools are incredibly rigid and rigorous and staid, and there's not movement. And how do you expand your horizons as a faculty member? What's your career trajectory? And so I think we as schools have responsibility if we want to recruit the best and the brightest of our community to come teach at our schools. Then we have to treat them the way these companies treat them. So whether that's providing them incredible food and and babysitting and special relaxation days and investing in them in that way, finding ways for them to expand their professional horizons with ideas. That's the thing. So I'll give you one example. We have what's called in my budget, it's called a signature programs fund. It's about 0.5% of my overall annual budget. And what we do with it is we invest in programs that faculty come up with, that the administration comes up with, that they want to give a shot. It's kind of like our R&D budget is what I would give.
So give me one example.
I'll give you one example on the Judaic study side of things. Our faculty felt like our students were getting a lot, but it's an 8, 9, 10-hour day, but you can't. Where's the chassidut there? Where is getting the students that feeling? So we brought in for a week a scholar in residence, where we brought in someone from Bar Ilan to run an academic Talmud thing for a week on the general study side of things. A faculty member wanted to do a documentary, so we brought in a mobile documentary film studio, and they worked on that, and they did that. And if it works, which the Scholar in Residence program has worked incredibly well, we've expanded it to the general study side of things, diversity, civics. We've brought in lots of scholars in residence over the last few years. Then we continue it, and then it becomes part of our regular budget, and then it opens up more R&D funds to try out new programs. But you've got to treat schools like businesses and innovate and treat our people.
100%. Okay, Rav Bini.
First of all, I just want to ask Ari how I can apply. I'd love to.
I was going to hire you after your description of modern orthodoxy. I'm like, this guy's great.
I asked him. I already asked him before. So yeah, you got to wait in line, dude.
We'll compete for the position.
Okay.
We spoke before, of course, about the open schools. So that's certainly something that we're known as. We're known for anecdotal, something else. Most schools have report cards. Most schools, you take a course, you get an A, B, or C, or a D, and and that's the end of it for decades. We just celebrated our 50th anniversary. This year 51. We don't have report cards. High schools want those report cards. They were like, okay, Tachlis, tell me, is the kid strong or medium or weak? Like, we don't do that. We just write about the whole child, and we try to believe that they're right. That a child can't be summed up in an A or B or C or a D. We don't have a valedictorian at graduation. We don't just take a number crunch and take everyone's average and say, okay, if you're a 98.6, then you beat out the 98.4 and you can speak at graduation. We have teachers nominate kids who are leaders, who are mensches, who take their academics seriously, who are role models, who are members of the community. And then we have the kids choose who can represent them. Why should I tell you who should represent you when you can tell me who you think can represent your class? And those are just some of the kinds of things that we try to do to put our money where our mouth is, as they say.
I love really that. I love what you're saying, and unfortunately we're out of time. So what I want to do is give each of you another sentence, and I actually wanted to ask about COVID, but like we don't have enough time for COVID. But I want each of you.
You know, with a vaccine yesterday, right?
Yeah, that's it. We're all going to be healthy. We're all good, right? No more COVID. So if each of you could give kind of final remarks, and maybe it could be kind of what you see in Jewish education in Israel that you would try to adapt or adapted already, or you could also add what we have to learn from you. And I've, by the way, learned a lot from you guys now, and I hope that the educators watching this will listen a little bit. So Rachel, the floor is yours.
So I think that the British education system has many constraints, but many advantages. And so what I would want to take from Israel is a little bit more freedom, a little bit more flexibility, which I also think, from having listened to the other panelists, exists in the United States as well. So we are much more restricted on some of the things we do, how we spend our budgets. You know, we have to, by law, provide report cards, those sorts of things. Even if I would want to get away with them. On the other hand, I think that perhaps what schools in Israel could learn, and I know there are schools that do this, but perhaps the mainstream schools lack the same choice of opportunity. I haven't really talked about our school curriculum, but my kids can more or less learn anything they want. They learn film studies in school, and they learn textiles in school, and they learn a business in school if they choose to, alongside a science and maths, etc. And we have students who go off to Oxford and Cambridge, and equally students who go out into the world of work and apprenticeship. And you can find all of that under one roof. You don't have to go to a specialist school for that.
Wow,
so I think that
amazing.
It's about curriculum offer, and perhaps easing the restrictions for us a bit would be great.
Okay, perfect. Ari.
Yeah, I mean, again, I'm speaking to a limited group in terms of, I see the Torani schools. I think the students who come out of those schools are incredibly fluent in the language, the insider language of Judaism, and that's something that I'd like us to do more of, and keep building that, because it's an insider's language.
The question is, will they understand this panel in English, right?
Yeah, they will, but it's something that's impressive on the Israeli side of things. Just the fluency with Jewish ideas and texts, and the fully living it, and it's immersive. So it's hard to transport it back to America, I would say. And again, this is unfair, but Israeli schools, like you said, Rachel, it's rigid. It's a bureaucracy. They're publicly funded. So for me to say be more nimble and to invest in R&D, I think I'm speaking maybe to the Ministry of Education. And again, I may be speaking out of turn, but there needs to be more investment in innovation. Otherwise, no other business in the world that's this enormous and this old would just not have innovation.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that, Sari and Rav Bini.
Everything Ari said. I mean, listen, I spent some time in Israeli schools. My kids went to an Israeli school for about 6 months when we had a sort of sabbatical, I guess, a number of years ago. We have Israeli groups coming here all the time, and we hope that they can learn from us. I certainly, look at the Israeli school system, and, I actually visit almost every year. We interview teachers there, and there are kids who are learning a lot. They might be learning a lot with 38 kids in a class, but they're learning a lot. Maybe they could borrow a little bit of process from us, and we could borrow a little content from them, and we could merge those things together. There's there's a lot out there to. I think we should just be bridging the gap. We should be talking to each other. Go ahead.
Amen. So I'm with you, and I'm sorry for cutting you guys off. It's very Israeli of me, but our time is up. So thank you, Rachel Fink from UK, and Ari from LA. Segal, sorry, from LA. Even though you're not in LA now, you're actually in Israel. And Rav Bini Krauss from Riverdale in the United States. Thank you for coming to be here with us, and thank you for watching this panel. And we hope to hear a lot from you later on.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.